Jason, what's the matter with you? You've got 2 wonderful kids, a wife who's an amazing homemaker, and 10 years younger. I mean, I even introduced you to her. I'm doing everything for my buddy. Vanessa takes care of herself and loves you. The apartment was partly funded by the company. Nowadays, that's practically a miracle. You've got it all. Why the long face and constant unhappiness? Aiden asked his longtime friend. They'd met back in their army days. Jason was a great guy then, always dependable, even share his last dime. But now, at nearly 50, Jason had changed. His conversations with Aiden were increasingly grim. Yeah, everything's fine, actually. Jason replied tersely as usual. He never opened up. Even after several beers, his tongue wouldn't loosen. Aiden found this hurtful. Friends should appreciate each other. Despite this, it was clear he loved his kids. And when it came to women, Jason had always been choosy. Jason's first wife, Clara, was like a black cat crossing his path. She was something else. Gorgeous hair, light brown and thick. Brown eyes that seemed to sparkle with sunlight. Long legs. Lovely curves. Jason had quite the catch. Back then, his friends envied him until they got to know Clara better. That's when it became clear a friend's wife can be quite a nuisance. Clara, get something on the table, will you? My friends are here. Jason would instruct his wife patriarchally, but his friends noticed that despite his confident facade, his voice quivered. I'll arrange everything, I'll arrange everything. With the $70 you give me for groceries, I'll see what I can do. Maybe you can help me get this across. Clara's tone was dripping with sarcasm. In their circle, discussing family problems in front of outsiders was taboo. You could criticize your spouse in private, but shaming them publicly was not the done thing. Jason's aunt often chastised Clara for this. Why are you embarrassing me in front of my friends? Jason asked his wife in a loud whisper in the kitchen. His friends heard everything but pretended not to. They were more polite than Clara after all. Because you're ridiculous. You order double lunches in the dining room, but you only give me $70 a day. And you even take money for cigarettes. Stop acting like you're some kind of important person. If I had known what a jerk you were, I would never have married you, Clara retorted sharply. His friends looked at each other. What a cheeky woman. Aiden didn't hear the rest of the conversation. Guys, let's go to a cafe. Since we've been treated badly here, Jason said, glaring at Clara, and added, redneck. In my village, no one would even share a bed with someone like you. Even with a big one or a small one. Don't forget about your dreams, you fool. She tore photos of an expensive lighter and a red sports car from the wall above the sofa. Young Jason hung his dreams over the couch so that when he woke up, he could remember what he lived for. His first wife did not understand the importance of motivation for men. Jason's friends often discussed how he shouldn't have married such a bumpkin. Clara, raised in a large family, had clear gaps in upbringing. Though she wasn't mean and seemed to love Jason, they just couldn't live together. Aiden remembered the events leading up to this well. He had advised his friend to tell his wife he wouldn't pay for a rented studio on the outskirts. They'd live with Jason's aunt, whom Clara detested. Aiden now wondered why he had given his friend such advice. It was his idea to limit his food expenses and move in with his aunt. Jason naively turned to him for advice, and Aiden gave him malicious advice. Now he felt guilty. Should he confess everything? The thought that he'd suggested Jason tell Clara to deal with the child herself, if she gave birth, especially tormented him. Jason had said it didn't matter to him. There are many women. If she wanted to give birth, it'd be her problem. If she wanted to be a husband's wife, she'd give birth when he decided. He'd also told Aiden. This redneck, as always, shouted that I didn't have any sacred values. No opinions, and that I can't dream of anything but cars and lighters. Oh, come on, forget it. You'll find someone younger. A man's always valued, like cognac. The older, the better. He laughed stupidly back then and hated himself. Aidan didn't understand why one part of him was so vile while the other disagreed. He wanted one to remain, but it didn't work out. That's when Jason said something that still burned his soul. For some reason, those words haunted him the most. "Aidan, I love Clara. Do you think life will hand me love on a platter like that? As many times as I want?" His friend asked him. "Hey, snap out of it. These women know how to push us to tears." He hurried to end the conversation. The next day, he saw his friend watching abortion movies with reddened eyes. "Clara, how are you?" Aidan's familiar voice sounded on the phone. Since breaking up with Jason, Aidan had kept in touch. He tried to help, visited her, asked how she was, but she raised her son alone. Bryce didn't need help now. He started earning early, wanting to make his mother's life easier. Clara has never complained about life. She believed that her life was just wonderful. She saw unfriendly people and difficulties, but she didn't dwell on them. If you like to ride, love to sledge. She managed to get a job at a private kindergarten. Then a wealthy client lured her away, noticing her genuine love for children. Clara seemed to know what and when to tell each child. Aidan was frustrated that Clara didn't need help. Sometimes she took groceries from him, but always gave something of equal value in return. When he offered to stay and fix something, she raised an eyebrow and said, "Aidan, we've talked about this. I'm not interested in you as a man. Let's not play games, like he fixed a shelf and wants to stay the night. It's funny, isn't it? We're adults. I told you from the start. There's no friendship between a man and a woman. If you can't control yourself, don't call or visit. Is that hard to remember?" She told him sharply and bluntly, as she always did when expressing something important to her. "You shouldn't do that. I'm fine on the personal front. I just felt sorry for you, and you jumped to conclusions," Aidan told her. But she looked at him, without malice, but with irony. He knew his attempt had failed again. Sometimes Aidan would start talking about her ex's new young wife, and it gave him some kind of perverse pleasure. In the first years after the breakup, Clara did not have the strength to stop him. He could see that she still loved Jason, and he could almost feel her love for life, sincerity and tenderness flowing into his veins for a while. But eventually it stopped working, and he couldn't figure out how to get through to her anymore. He tried talking about the fleeting nature of youth and competition, but it didn't work. Aidan didn't seek to have Clara for just one night, as she had assumed. He wanted her for life. She would be like a ring of power that would make him normal, kind, and human, not a nasty traitor, envious and dirty. "Mom, why all this drama?" Bryce asked. "Dad's been talking to me since I was 5. Why do you put up with that idiot Uncle Aidan? A traitor and a bastard." Bryce had picked up the habit from his mother of calling things as they were, not sugarcoating anything. "I just wonder how long he can stand it." Clara laughed and hugged her son. "Bryce, don't be dramatic. You know I'm doing fine. I'm not some eternally suffering mother who carried you like a burden. I love you and consider it a great happiness that you were born. And though I don't love your dad, I don't hate him either." Clara thought about it. She still couldn't figure out how she felt about Jason. In her youth, she didn't have time to love him, but she really hoped he would give her a chance. Young women often marry someone who loves them, and young men in love, having gotten such women as wives, often start to get complacent, thinking the bird is already in the cage and they can relax. Only mature husbands know that women need to be won over constantly, and this is the norm. Inexperienced husbands often start behaving like complete idiots. Envious friends and relatives are right there, making things worse. Many people, having missed their own happiness, feel compelled to help others miss their one true love out of envy. May everyone be unhappy now. That's life. So there was nothing unusual about Clara's situation. The only problem was that Jason continued to love her as his wife. He would not have abandoned the children from his second marriage. and would have supported them. Clara was sure that he was a good father, but now it was time to extinguish Jason's hope that it was possible to enter the same river twice. Clara had long had a man for her soul and heart. They lived in a guest marriage because Clara believed it was not right to bring a man into a house where another man's child lived. Of course, many of her friends managed to find decent fathers for their non-biological children, but just as many others ended badly. Clara tallied the statistics. Even with the most optimistic calculations, there's only a 50% chance that a stepfather will at least treat the non-biological child decently. She didn't want to take any chances. Now her son was about to get married himself. She could finally establish her personal life, but she probably stopped communicating with Jason altogether. It seemed wrong. His children were 10 and 12, and she saw him behind his wife's back. Though they had nothing and never would, Bryce was right. It was time to end this madhouse. She would stop talking to both him and Aiden. Jason, I want to admit something. All these years, I've been trying to hit on Clara. That's why I gave you bad advice. And I have to tell you, she gave birth to your son, and he's grown into a good guy. She also married some big shot. I found out by chance from a friend who organized their wedding in a fancy restaurant. She was always after money. Forgive me, Jason. Aiden confessed to his friend. So she stopped talking to you two. Jason waved his hand listlessly. Aiden was shocked. He expected anything. Maybe his friend would punch him, curse him out, or even throw him out the window. It was just the first floor, but he certainly didn't expect this. Clara told me you've been calling her all these years. She joked a lot, called us fools who don't know what we want. And she asked me, you know what? Jason asked, staring into the distance. What? Aiden asked, his voice hoarse. He hadn't even had time to be surprised yet, but he already felt sick. His heart ached. She asked if I would achieve my goal in life, if I bought a lighter and a red Jaguar. Jason either laughed or coughed. He added, and I wanted to say that everything is fine. I have a young wife. Children. She had mistresses from time to time. But I changed my mind about the car. I wanted to throw it all in her face, let her choke. Jason was silent for a long time. And did you quit? Aiden asked hopefully. He even forgot about his surprise that his friend knew he had betrayed him. It seemed like Jason didn't care. Now Aiden wanted only one thing, on behalf of the male brotherhood, to defeat this arrogant and obnoxious splinter, a black cat who crossed their bright, self-sufficient male paths and ruined their lives. They had to defeat Clara. Otherwise, a secret knowledge about a woman's happy life might spread among others in spite of everything. And then all their boyish tricks would stop working. And to have a love relationship, you'd have to grow into an adult man. And it kind of hurts or something. Aiden was surprised himself. Where did this come from? Probably, it's necessary to read fewer articles on the internet about how men's lives are ruined exclusively by women. Maybe it's even kind of stupid that if he thinks Clara is weak, he fights with her on equal terms and tries to win. The thought didn't have time to carve a new healing groove. His friend decided to tell him something else about his lifelong duel with Clara. I looked into her eyes and understood. She feels sorry for me, like a mother. It's like I'm a kid from her kindergarten. In general, it's my own fault that I stopped being a man for her a long time ago. I've been missing something in my life, and now I understand what. What? Aiden asked. He opened his mouth a little greedily, as if he could make Jason open up and spill everything. He would snatch a precious secret, like a fox from a crow in a famous fable. Then he'd be able to resist Clara. You have to figure that out for yourself, or rather, to suffer through it, Jason said. Lately, he smiled much more often at his wife and children.